Okay.
My name is Jackson Villagran, and this is my sociology critical response exercise. I am doing prompt number 1, and I am interviewing my mother, Melinda Villagran. Okay, Mom, how do you respond when you realize that you're wrong?
How do I respond when I feel that I was wrong? When I find out I'm wrong, I feel disappointed, and so I will respond in ways that say, oh gosh, kind of trying to make sense of the fact that I was wrong, and then either apologize or seek out the right answer or understand why I was wrong. I'll talk about it a lot, either with myself or with the other person.
Yes. When you realize that you're wrong, when you realize that you're wrong, do you like acknowledge it to yourself, or do you try and acknowledge it to somebody else?
Well, so an example recently, I guess I had someone at my work that I thought was my colleague, and I thought that we got along, and I've been going along as if this person is not a friend but friendly, and then I found out just really in one big event that this person actually cannot stand me. And I had no idea. And I was so wrong about them. I thought that we were friends. And then I found out that this person was not my friend. And I felt really stupid. So what do? I think about it a lot. I can't stop thinking about how did I not notice? Why was I so wrong about this person? And then I tend to talk about it with other people that I trust, to kind of be like, you're not going to believe this. I can't believe what happened. I can't, I don't understand why this person feels this way. But mostly I feel, why was I so wrong about this person? And so I'll talk about it to someone else. But not that person. In this case, I can't. But someone else that I trust.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. And then my second question is, what is a social issue that you feel is most difficult for other people to change their minds about?
I think a social issue that is tough for people to change their mind about. Modern example, I guess, is belief in or dislike of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a social issue, but I would say the politics of Trump, and so the way that Trump describes the world and the issues that are important. Either you really see that as valuable and true, or you see it as a bunch of malarkey.
Yeah. What is the reason why why do you think the idea the social concept of Donald Trump is so difficult for people to change their minds on?
Well, I think it's rooted in your values, and so I guess for me, I see, on a very shallow level, if somebody looks ridiculous and orange and they say ridiculous things that sound so uneducated, then I think they're stupid and I don't identify with them because that's just not who I am. And when somebody lies all the time, I see that as being against my values. And so it's just, for me, difficult, as much as I want to try to see things from someone else's perspective. It's hard because this issue of his political views is rooted in what I see as being a whole series of things that are against my personal values. And so I think any social issue where you have, values that aren't going to change, that drive the way that you feel about that social issue, you're not going to change someone's mind about it.
Yeah. You mentioned your personal values. Would you mind clarifying what your personal values are, just basically, and then more explicitly why you have those values?
Yeah, sure. So, I tend to be, I'm educated, And I am not positive that he has any education at all, because he's done really stupid things. And so I consider myself an educated person, and also I really value honesty. And so when there's things that are, obviously untruths that are constant, then it makes me, really question my ability to believe anything that he says. And then my values, are rooted in, I guess, my Christian values, lying, cheating, stealing, being kind and loving your neighbor. None of those things to me are apparent in any of the things that he does. And so therefore it's really hard for me to understand how people who also see themselves as Christians can view these social issues so differently, like the border, like, like all of the separating families and all the stuff about the way we treat people and calling people, that are handicapped, making fun of them on the TV, or just a million examples of just really not being a loving person, not telling the truth, and not looking or sounding halfway intelligent. So anything that you say is either a lie or it's rooted in some really off-base opinion, in my opinion. And so that's the way I'm situated, because I am educated, and I worked on Capitol Hill for 6 years. I have political experience, so I know how politicians are. And then I guess my own Christian values make it really challenging for me to find goodness in anything he says. And so that's just where I stand on it.
Okay. How do you think that unconscious bias plays into people's ability or inability to change their perspective on Donald Trump? And unconscious bias would be the assumptions that you make without thinking about them.
Yeah, well, that good example. That's what I said before. Like, it's not really right, because how you look doesn't matter, whether you're a good leader. But for me, if you look, and it's not like handsome or old or young or any of that. It's just the fact that I don't know. I just don't really get into dudes wearing a lot of makeup, and he wears like orange tanner, and he has like streaks on his face, which makes me think that he's fake, because he's trying to put on a face that he's not. And so I just have I guess, existing belief that probably is a bias against him, because of when I look at him and try to listen to him, he looks like a buffoon. And so it's hard for me to listen to what he says and give him a chance, probably.
Okay. And then, how do you believe tribalism plays into all of this? Tribalism being the idea that we put ourselves in groups and then view people out. We put ourselves in groups based on specific criteria that are specific mostly down to the individual, and then we look at people outside of that group and view them as against us or opposing to us in some way, even if they technically or specifically aren't, but we view them as that.
Yeah, well, probably. So again, I mean, I'm just railing on Donald Trump, but so I probably see myself as being someone who's, again, educated and thinks from an enlightened or resourced or evidence-based background. Like, I look for the truth based on some evidence, and that's probably my tribe in terms of, I want to be educated about things, and I respect people that say things that seem like they're in line with historical or current data or perspectives that are rooted in something besides just, whatever's made up on the fly. And then also, I think, I mentioned my Christian values, and although this is a really tricky one, because he has a lot of pastors and Christian people in his group that I'm not in, but I think that in my mind, these are like him, fake. They don't really do or say things that are in line with what I believe are actual Christian values, which is like kindness and love your neighbor, and Jesus was an immigrant, and we don't like put immigrants in jail and all that kind of stuff. And so those